Oh my goodness, it's been a long time, hasn't it? Hasn't it been a long time? What with this coronavirus and COVID-19 lockdown and oh my word. Anywho, it looks like we're back for a bit of scraft. You know, maybe this is all about the easing of lockdown restrictions or something. I don't know. Yeah, not sure how or why that affects an online game, but anyway, here we are. Look, Binley playing Zerg, bottom left, Firesrest, Terran, top right. This is a pretty early SCV on the map. Is possible that he's just looking to see whether his opponent's gone pull first or hatch first, because that's an important thing to know. In general, when you're playing against Zerg, you know, get across the map early doors, just check that the hatch is done, because if they haven't dropped the hatch, they're probably cheesing. Yeah, so he's going to come in and have a little poke about. At present, no hatch though, and no pull either. Oh, there goes the worker to drop the hatch now. So if you're Firesrest, you're kind of reassured to see that happening. Yeah, this, by the way, this is the first of the semi-finals, an actual semi-final game. I have no idea how much these guys have been practicing. If they've been practicing, might be that this is the first time they've played, you know, since the last game I casted or whatever. It could have been months, who knows? Maybe they're completely out of practice. Maybe they know exactly what they're doing. We'll soon find out. So, worker comes in, sees that there wasn't an aggressive timing on the spawning pool and is merrily returning home. So if I'm in Terran land, knowing that my opponent has not gone pull first or anything like that, I think I'm quite happily getting the Reaper out for additional information. And to be honest, rather than the second Rex, I probably would have went CC myself. But you know, no matter, the Reaper's a good call. It's such a fast unit. Until there is Zergling speed, it cannot be caught. So it's really easy to come into a Zerg base, have a nice look around, see what you need to see, and get out again. In the event also that a handful of Lings turn up to harass you, if they don't have speed, the Reaper can just kite them all day long and can fend off quite a few Lings actually with the grenades and stuff. So. Really handy unit to get out on the map early doors. We've got Firesrest going up to factory with still no sign of an expo. So I'm a little worried that he is going to start falling behind economically if he doesn't get an expand down fairly soon. But the Reaper's going to come in. He is going to see everything. He's going to get a bit harassed on these. The Queen is going to chase it away pretty sharpish though. So you tend not to get any kills against a Zerg with your Reaper. It'd be pretty unusual, you know, it'd be a bit of mismicro on the part of the Zerg if you actually killed a worker. But the important thing is that you get in and you have a look around. If we look from Firesrest point of view, he has actually not seen the spawning pool, but you know, obviously he's seen that there's Lings out. I still would have liked the Reaper to come around the back here and check for what you'd really be checking for is a very early roach warren. You know, there's no lair yet. That's the only other tech there could be. So you'd come around the back here, have a look. What you might see a roach warren that would suggest that there's going to be a big roach push if that's up before the lair. Or you might even see an Evo chamber that might sort of suggest there's going to be some sort of +1 timing coming out. But yeah, it didn't have a poke about. Did see that there's no third. So Binley just cranking out a few Lings, has got the lair. Oh no, that's a shame. The Reaper there just getting cornered, surrounded by those Lings. So Firesrest will lose quite a lot of vision on the map, but he's got more than enough Marines to fend this area off and does so successfully. So thus far, Binley with no vision inside his opponent's base, so is unaware of what's going on here. This is the interesting thing. We've got a reactor here coming down on the starport. You know, previously we've seen Firesrest get a lot done with Cloak Banshees, and Cloak Banshees are good units. With the cloak you can be really annoying, and they can, especially with a couple of them, you can clean out a worker line pretty quickly. There are a lot of Lings on this map, and the siege tank is well placed to fend these Lings off, but these Marines need to run. They need to run quite fast. Needs to close the door up here as well. Now the Lings are going to get in here and just be really annoying. They're not going to get a kill or anything. As I say, that well-placed siege tank with 14 kills. Very hard for the Lings to get anything serious done, but a bit annoying to sort of lose workers. Doubly annoying that this mule is just going to time out its days parked in the corner without mining. So the bunker isn't a bad plan at all. I wouldn't have minded even seeing the bunker parked here just to block this access, but it doesn't really matter. A bunker is a good shot. Lings kind of surrounding a bunker with a siege tank above it are not going to get along very well. So it's going to be air coming from Binley. I'm a little concerned though that the spar is already half done and he only has 1 gas mining. What are you going to build from a spar from 1 gas? Nothing is the short answer. Hang on, wait, what? Yeah. Nothing is the short answer. If you want to build mutants or something, they cost 100 gas each. You've got enough gas for 1 mutalisk when that spar finishes up, and you're not going to have any great amount anytime soon. So you need at least 4 gas, and ideally, if you really want to get some hurt on with mutas, you need to be. Oh, it needs to run. That's really frustrating to lose a cyclone for free like that. Cyclones are quite fast units, and you should be able to get away from those Lings. Odd to send the cyclone out on its own unsupported. Typically you'd have that with maybe a alien or something to support it. Yeah. So the spar finishes up for Binley, but no air units in production just yet. I'm kind of curious to see whether he's going to commit to air or maybe just get 6 mutants out to get a little bit of light harass done. The turret is in place, and there's a turret in place over here, so Firesrest is actually in good shape. If 6 mutants turn up, they're not really going to be able to achieve anything. If it's a really committed mutant push with sort of an entire flock of 20, then, well, as I've said, Binley just doesn't have the gas for that, so that isn't a thing that's going to happen. His bank is going to start spiraling out of control in terms of minerals, but he desperately needs to match that with the gas, otherwise all he can really build is Lings and bases. So I don't know what's going on there. Have we got all the appropriate upgrades in Terran Land? That's not the upgrades tab. We have got none. So no combat shield and no stim. But it does, however, look like Firesrest is going down a bit more of a mech path this game, which I quite like. With siege tanks coming out. But there is only 1 factory, more racks in production. So I'm not 100% sure what to make of this. It's a bit of a mishmash. Most of his unitage here, like these siege tanks are heavy hitters. He's got the cyclone and stuff like that. Great. It's not a vast number of Marines, but he does seem to be committing to Marines in as much, or is he? There's another factory. I just don't know what he's going for. I don't understand this build. It just seems a little bit confused. There's factories everywhere. Look, so it is going to be mech. That's okay. I'm not really sure what the point of this extra barracks was then. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Mech. I like mech as Terran. I quite enjoy it. These guys are following that medevac, which is a little unfortunate. So drop coming out for Firesrest. Is that going to be spotted in the middle of the map? I'm not so sure it is. Did this guy see it as it left? I don't know that he did. These medevacs may have gone just past the vision range of that Overlord, but if Binley wasn't really looking at the mini-map at the time, there's a pretty good chance that he didn't see it. So this could get a fair amount done. There is the siege tank in there. If he drops this into somewhere like here in this location, that can be pretty nasty. Better still drop it here, and then it can fire on this mineral line, it can fire on this mineral line and get your Marines in front of it to protect it. This could be bad. This could get actually quite a lot of hurt done. So the tank siege is up straight away. I don't think that is within range of this mineral line, but it's certainly going to do a lot over here. Mutas, that's just not enough mutas for this many Marines, but with the Lings as well, that's going to clean this up pretty handily. Needs to get the medevacs out of there because those are expensive. So Really, once the Lings turned up, possibly could have done with just a load up with those Marines. So in the end, not getting quite as much done as it might have. A pretty good defense from Binley, managed to rally all his units up there to take care of that pretty sharpish. Yeah, and I don't think really lost much. I don't know if there was focus fire happening. That certainly would have been the way to go. You know, if you can trade Marines for Mutalisks, you'll do that all day long. The reason I say that, Marines, just they don't cost any gas. Mutas do. Part of the big problem there is Mutas do that splash damage, the rebound from their shots, ricochets from the first unit they hit to another, then another, and without combat shield, you know, that's doing a lot. This is now a slightly problematic number of Mutalisks, but look how many turrets there are. They just, you know, these Mutas turrets do well, but he's going to need to pull some workers here to do a bit of repairing. But look, you know, it's way too many turrets, and I like the addition of the Vikings as well. One real upside to that drop, even though the drop didn't kill very much, is it did reveal the Mutalisks. So Firesrest more than ready, and an absolutely robust defense there, just losing nothing at all, essentially. Maybe a little bit of mining time. So both of these players looking in pretty good shape. Interestingly, Firesrest ahead in supply. And the worker count not as high as you might expect for the Zerg, given that we're 11 minutes in. You know, by 11 minutes you want to be kind of absolutely tooled up with workers, you know, somewhere. And I would normally suggest about like 70 or 80 workers I would have as a Zerg. But, you know, holding at 62 is absolutely fine too. So, kills all of these supply depots, and that's a little bit annoying for Firesrest. He is going to have to rebuild some depots to unsupply block himself. He may have enough energy. No, doesn't. Has been dropping the mules and stuff. So, you know, it's always that slightly frustrating thing. If you're on top of your macro, you're using the energy on your command centers, then you don't have that spare energy for extra supply. If you haven't been playing quite as well, you find yourself with spare energy, and you are able to just drop extra supply if you need it. So yeah, Firesrest, I think probably unaware that he has such a significant army advantage at this stage. If we look at the upgrades, you know, +1 is done and combat shield is done, but given that he seemed to be committing to mech, no upgrades for the mech units just yet. Doesn't need to worry about mutas. You know, with a couple of Hellions to keep the Lings at bay from the Marines, Marines will tread so well against mutas. You don't want to be fighting this with Mutalisks. You know, and that's just as a general sort of tip when you're playing StarCraft. If you're playing against a Zerg that has committed to Mutalisks, Mutalisks can be a real pain. You can feel very much like you're stuck at home, that you can't move out, because as soon as you move out, the Mutalisks are in your base. But remember, the downside of the Mutalisks is they are rubbish in a stand-up fight. You know, the last thing a Muta player wants to be doing is trying to attack into this bunch of Marines. Although I don't think Stim is done. It is in production, but it is not yet done. Ultras, on the other hand, will crush these Marines. So Firesrest needs to load up and get out of there, because these Ultras will just absolutely eat that. So lift up and hit the boost button. Go, 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 boost, boost. Oh no. Oh, that's just so painful. That he was just a bit slow on the lift and get out, and needs to boost it. Oh no. Oh man. Yeah, I think it definitely would have been worth sending the Vikings there to keep the mutas off those medevacs. But yeah, just a bit slow on the lift and evac there. Still does snipe a base, and didn't lose a horrific amount. His army supply took a bit of a hit. There was 3 medevacs worth of stuff, so a bit of a hit, but not terrible. His income is good. He's, you know, up on 4 bases here, and has got reasonable production. Look at all of this stuff happening. So he is building stuff merrily. Cyclones coming out. And the Cyclones can do quite well against the Ultras with that lock on. They can dance around them, they can keep them at bay, but Ultras are very, very tough. So this push is going to be pretty harsh. Marines just don't do much against ultras. Needs to kite with these cyclones though. You can't stand still with the cyclones, you need to kite. So what I mean by that is you move the cyclones to within range to get the lock on, and then you basically run, because once locked on, cyclones can shoot stuff from roughly the other side of the map. So the way to use these cyclones is to lock on and then just run away, and they will continue shooting and doing damage to their target. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like Chayton is aware of that sort of way of using the cyclones, because actually the cyclones could have done extremely well against these ultras. Now he's got so many siege tanks here, he should be able to clean this up and hold. Looks like this planetary could be in trouble though. Has he got the planetary upgrade? It looks like he has. Yeah, so the workers are repairing, but you know that 5 ultras just kick out a lot of damage. Yeah, so both players taking reasonable hits there. It's Firesrest with the army advantage. Some of that is in Marines though, and Marines just aren't good. Needs to repair this barracks. He's going to lose that with quite a lot of money's worth of Marines in queue. Oh, here he goes. Well done. So he needs to think about repositioning these siege tanks, get them down here, get them onto the, and is doing. This is what I'm seeing here is actually pretty good play. This is high level play. This isn't bad at all. I was worried that maybe our players wouldn't have had any practice, would have been sort of out of sorts, but you know what we're seeing here is actually pretty decent. Now the corruptors are going to control the skies here, but now that the ultras are cleaned up, the only thing shooting up here really is this cyclone. Cyclones are brilliant against corruptors. Corruptors can't shoot things on the ground, so with that lock-on ability, it's very hard for the corruptors to run away as well. So you can do well with cyclones against those. But he just seems to be vacillating between the mech and the Marines, and I'm just not sure about this. I think he needs to commit to one or the other. He's got the upgrades for the Marines, but also has +2 for the mech as well. So I just feel that he needs to commit to one of those options. You know, he's got a lot of siege tanks already. I'd be inclined to mix in some Thors to deal with the stuff in the air. You would have to assume that Binley is going to be transitioning very shortly to Broodlords. You know, although we don't see a greater spar just yet, but the hive is ready. So yeah, at present he doesn't have an answer to Broodlords. The mech answer to Broodlords is pretty clear cut. You need to research Blue Flame for the Hellbats, and Hellbats are the key because they just do so much splash damage. Hellbats will keep the Broodlings off your Thors, and the Thors have such good range in the air that they should be able to deal with the Broodlords. Now I think this is just enough Ultralisks to just munch through this, but it's not the most efficient of trades. I mean, Ultralisks are very, very expensive, and Firesrest is losing their, you know, mostly Marines and stuff, which you kind of don't really mind losing once you've got a reasonable base count. Now with that said, you know, 18 minutes in, and he's rebuilding here a 4th. The main is completely mined out. The natural is presumably fairly mined out as well. So yeah, not much income actually for Firesrest as it goes. And army supply is dropping. This is going to be in trouble here. He can't lift it off with the corruptors. The corruptors are going to shoot that. So needs really to keep that alive, and all of his supply really is just siege tank. So ideally needs to land this, get the siege tanks moving into a position where they can protect that, because he cannot afford to lose this CC. Needs to get some workers across there repairing that. And once that lands, maybe he can start dropping some mules and stuff, transfer some workers. You know, look how many siege tanks there are within the main. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's a lot of firepower, but you know, it's all up here. I think some of the pathing is blocked actually by these sieged up units. So some of this stuff, I'm not sure if Firesrest knows that it's there, but that is a lot of firepower. 7 in the main, another 2 here, 9, 11 siege tanks. You know, that will crush so much ground forces. If those siege tanks are in this location, they just crush this. They obliterate stuff. 11 siege tanks, man. It's just going to lay down such heavy fire on everything. But they're not. They're miles away. And I'm pretty worried that Firesrest, if he loses this base again, is essentially out of this game, because Binley, you know, up on, what, 5 bases here? 6 bases, sorry. Has a massive income, has a massive bank, and can afford these inefficient trades. If he's sniping bases, he's denying mining. I think what Firesrest needs to do is lift off this CC and fly it down to another location. Maybe fly it down here, maybe fly it out to the 4th. But wherever he's flying it to, he needs to bring those siege tanks forward to defend it, because they're just not doing anything up here. Okay. This push, I mean, the army supply, Binley is doubling the army supply here roughly, or at least was. Now that he gets within range of the siege tanks, they unleash an absolute world of hurt. But you know, it's all very well to be so well defended in this corner, but you've mined this corner out. The Thor needs to be going to work on these, and is going to work on these corruptors. So let's have a quick look at the upgrades tab. So we've got +3 on the Marines, we've got +3 here. The air, actually the corruptors are not particularly tough, and not much in the way of armor going on for the Zerg units, but the chitinous plating is done for those ultras, so they are pretty tough. I don't know, man, this is beginning to look a little bit ominous, because Firesrest is just pinned into his own base here. He's still got, I mean, I know the army supply is not particularly high, but you know, it's a powerful army. And since there's still no greater spire, the corruptors in the air can't do anything. I think Firesrest needs to just needs to move out of his own base, and needs to sort this out. It's you know, whatever it takes to fix that, like just lift this barracks or something so that your units can get out the door. Maybe that's what needs to happen, or unsiege that tank. I don't know, but he needs that stuff out on the map, protecting his expansions. So Binley sticking with the Ultralisks, which is kind of fair enough, I suppose. I mean, I'd like to see the Broodlord transition, because you've seen what your opponent's got, and he's got nothing to deal with Broodlords, not really. There aren't any Hellbats, there aren't any Vikings anymore, so, and there's only this one Thor. So Firesrest does GG, just feeling that he has no way to get back into the game, and I don't know. Yeah, I mean, Binley certainly in the end was very ahead by the time the GG came. But you know, if you rewind that a few minutes, Firesrest certainly had opportunity to hold that 4th if he just moved those siege tanks down. Anyway, I liked what I saw. That was a good game. I enjoyed that. It's nice to be back, casting a little bit of Scraft, and hopefully I'll have more Corona Scraft for you coming soon. I know that these guys obviously are hopefully going to be playing a best of 5. That was the first game, and I believe Chaitin encountered some hardware problems or something. His PC overheated and crashed or something like that. So they're going to schedule the rest of those games for as soon as they can, and I will cast them for you as soon as I can. GG.